I'm back, and today we are making Irish, well, the recipe calls it homemade Irish sausage, but I like to think of it as an Irish version of bangers and mash. So we're gonna make our own Irish sausages out of ground pork and some spices, and this recipe is only for the sausage and the gravy, which we'll get to later. That'll be exciting. But I'm also gonna make mashed potatoes, which is a little challenging for me since I don't usually make sides. I'm not really good at cooking multiple things at once, so we're gonna see how that goes and if I get the timing right. So I'm really excited about this. As you know, the Irish are very well known for our amazing cooking skills. So I thought this would be a fun festive thing to try for St. Patrick's Day. It's just a couple days away, and I've never had Irish sausages before. At least I don't remember. I don't think I have. So I'm excited to try this. I even bought special spices for this recipe. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is measure out 2 pounds of our ground pork. So I have, I think, about 3 pounds here. Yeah, so we have a little over 3 pounds, so I'm gonna have to measure this out and then store the rest. So I'm already prepared with the second mixing bowl and a Ziploc baggie to put the rest of the meat in, and we will use that for a different recipe. Actually, if you have any recommendations for what I should do with that leftover ground pork, let me know. I'm thinking maybe I might try a Scotch egg. I'm not sure though. So if you have a request or an idea of what I should try, leave that in the comments section. But for now, let's start measuring our pork for this recipe. Okay, there we go, pounds. Now, I'm gonna put the mixing bowl and we're gonna tare. Okay, cool. Now, I'm gonna take the garnish out. I think it's parsley, but the recipe doesn't call for that, so we're gonna take it out. Oh, I have a cut on my hand and that feels weird. Good enough for me. Hey, that's the year. This is burning my skin, so I'm gonna rinse off really quick. Okay, so I'm just taking the leftover pork. I put it in a Ziploc bag. Usually I feel like we would take it out of this like styrofoam thing, but it just looked so comfortable in there, I thought I'd leave it alone. So, little tip for you, if you're new to cooking like I am, always put open meat in a bowl in your fridge, because the one time that you don't, it's gonna leak everywhere and it's gonna ruin your week. Okay, so what's interesting about this recipe is it's very to the point. So they list all the ingredients for the sausage, and then the first step is in a large bowl, combine sausage ingredients and mix well. So let me grab a paper towel, and we're going to crack an egg and add that in. There we go. If you're wondering why I crack my egg in a separate bowl, it's just so that it's easier to pick out any shells if there are. Oh, but look at that. I got one and I didn't notice, so my little system failed me. And got them. We saved the dish. Okay, now for the fun part. Let's do some panko breadcrumbs. And as always, the recipe with all the measurements will be linked in my description. This is not my recipe if you're new to this channel. I make other people's recipes. These plastic measuring cups, by the way, I've noticed they have like a lot of static and it kind of makes the dry ingredients stick. So we're just gonna give it a good swipe. Try not to waste so much. Next, we want some minced garlic. And look, guys, I have a new jar. We finished up the gross old one. I believe you can never have too much garlic. Next, we want some salt, and it makes me happy that this recipe calls for coarse salt because that's all we have. Next, they say a teaspoon of black pepper, but we have the kind you have to grind, so it's a little bit difficult to measure. I'm just gonna try to eyeball it, and if anything, I'll probably end up using slightly less than they call for, but that's fine. I don't need like super spicy sausage. Okay, so now here is the ingredient that I had to track down for this recipe. So they call for rubbed sage, which apparently is not really sold at any of the stores near us. I don't know if that's the case for you too. I did buy this on Amazon and it actually came in a pack of 6. It was crazy. I paid like $8. The only thing is it's expiring this summer, so it's not ideal, but I kind of don't care. None of our spices really get used up before the expiration date and I still think they're fine. So I will link this below if you're interested, but I know St. Patrick's Day is really close and you probably wouldn't have time to order this, so if you don't have this and you can't buy it, I would think any kind of sage probably works just fine for this recipe. I do think you want to add the sage because I know it's going to add a really nice flavor, but I wouldn't go crazy trying to find this if, you know, you want to make it for St. Patrick's Day. And don't mind me while I just spill sage all over my counter. This is a little bit more than they say, but it's fine. And the last ingredient is some ground allspice, which I was wiping off before because we almost never use it. And look, it expired 2 years ago and we still have pretty much the whole jar. I don't really know what allspice is going to taste like, but I imagine it's going to give it almost like a breakfast sausage kind of taste, but obviously like way better because we're not using crappy food. So that's everything we need for the sausage patties. I'm going to just start mixing this with a fork because this is really cold and my skin is really dry and and it kind of hurts, but I will get in there with my hands to start forming the patties. Okay, so behind me I have like a little assembly line. So we have our meat mixture here. I've got my little dish with my scale. I've got my parchment paper because the raw meat tends to be a little bit sticky and I don't want my patties getting stuck to each other. Oh, and I've been mentioning patties. So you can shape your meat into like the shape of a sausage link, or you can do patties. Patties are extra festive for St. Patty's Day, but also I figured like it might be awkward and difficult to cook a sausage link. It's kind of thick and they don't say to use a casing. Not that I would really even know the first thing about stuffing a sausage casing, but I just figured patties would be easier, so that's why I'm going with that. They want you to measure them out so that they're all roughly the same like weight. They actually don't talk about how thick they should be now that I think of it, so I guess we'll have to like figure that out as we go. But anyway, back to the assembly line. So we've got our parchment paper already cut. I just have a can opener keeping it flat, and then this dish is where we're gonna keep each of the patties until they're ready to cook. So once again, we want to turn on the scale, plate on there, we're gonna tear, and we're gonna get our parchment paper. All right, so we're just gonna scoop the meat until we get the right amount. Ooh, this ankle. I'm gonna try to get my patties as close to 3 ounces as I can. I'm sure at the end it might be a little bit off. Oops. We're gonna just try to make it an even thickness throughout, hoping I cut enough parchment paper, and onto the plate you go. So I'm gonna just repeat that process and finish making the patties. So I will see you, oops, when I'm done. All right, so I'm back. We have our 2 plates of sausage patties ready to go. I did end up running out of parchment paper, so I had to stop and cut some more in case you were wondering. So if you hear that hissing sound right now, we are boiling water on the stove, or bringing it to a boil so that we can start cooking the potatoes for the mashed potatoes. But in the meantime, I also have the electric kettle going because we need to make some broth for our gravy. So I'm really excited about this part. This gravy calls for a stout beer. Now, we didn't have any in the house, and I really didn't want to go out and buy beer that I knew I wouldn't want to drink. Like, I don't like dark beer like that. So we have this pumpkin ale left over from the fall. Now, don't worry, because it's not flavored like a pumpkin. It's just got pumpkin spice flavoring, so I actually think it'll go pretty well with this dish since we're using allspice, and it's kind of like, I feel like it's a similar flavor palette, as they say. But we use a whole bottle of this, thank God, because I didn't want to have to drink the rest. And beef broth. So that is why we are boiling the water here. It will be done in a second, and I'm gonna have to move quick and start peeling those potatoes so that we can get ready to, or actually, I think I'll start cooking the sausage patties first. Then I'll peel the potatoes because they have to cook for about 15 minutes. They have to boil for about 15 minutes, so I think that if I start those after I cook the sausage, that should give me time to work on the gravy. That's what I'll do. So I will wait until I cook all the sausage, and then I'll peel the potatoes. So in the meantime, let's make our broth. So now the recipe only calls for half a cup of broth, so we're gonna just measure that out. We want to measure from the meniscus. I think we're good. And then I have just half a teaspoon. We are using the Better Than Bouillon today, the beef broth, and you use 1 teaspoon per cup. So half a cup, half a teaspoon. And this stuff is so goopy. Look at it. I could just stir it and it'll melt right off. Okay, and apparently our water is already boiling. It usually doesn't boil that fast. That's why I started it now. So I guess I'm gonna turn that burner down a little bit so it stays hot, and then it'll be easy to bring it back up to a boil when I'm ready to cook the potatoes. And one last thing that I forgot to mention is we want to slice up an onion for the gravy. Done. Okay, we're ready to start cooking our sausage. So I've got my skillet here. Is this a skillet? I've got my pan here. I'm gonna put it on medium high. I've also got my meat thermometer here because pork is not one of those meats that you can undercook, and I'm not gonna risk it. I don't know what I'm doing, so we're gonna be extra careful. Now, in the recipe, she doesn't say if we have to lubricate the pan, but I'm assuming that we do, so I'm just gonna use some avocado oil. I don't know if you're ever really supposed to cook without some kind of like lubricant. I guess when you use a non-stick pan, but generally I don't like to use Teflon, and I typically won't buy it. I don't know what the right utensil is for this, so I guess I'll use a spatula. Maybe my trusty fish spatula. I really need to get a spoon rest. All right, this is the exciting part. I'm gonna put our first patty in. And obviously we can fit a lot more than one at a time here. I'm gonna try really hard not to burn myself because I've got 2 burners on. My spatula is sliding into one of them. Whoop. Oh, we can fit a lot in here. This is cool. I feel like I could fit a 5th, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to orchestrate that. Okay guys, it's been a couple minutes. I just flipped the first guy, as you can see. I think he looks pretty good. So we're gonna start flipping the rest. These smell amazing, by the way. They smell kind of like breakfast sausage, but without that like fake maple syrup scent, you know, because obviously they're not, they're not sweet. I think this is the color we want. I'm gonna give them a few minutes, obviously, after I flip them, and then we will use the meat thermometer just to make sure that nobody's gonna go to the hospital today. This smells so good. Billy doesn't like sausage, and I'm starting to think he might like this. We'll see when we get to the taste test later. I'm just gonna keep cooking these. I don't think you guys probably need to see that or wanna see that. It's probably kind of boring, so I will cook these up, take the temperature of each batch, make sure everything is good to go, and then I'll see you guys again when it's time to make the gravy. Okay guys, I just got done cooking the sausage patties. Billy came out here because he wanted to know how much longer it was going to be, and he even said it smelled good, and that means a lot because, like I told you before, he does not like sausage. It smells amazing. It reminds me of breakfast sausage, but obviously like one step up because it's real nice meat. There's our water boiling. I can already tell that I think they'd be good with eggs, like on a breakfast sandwich, but that is not why we're making them. We're making them for bangers and mash. So I got my water boiling to put my potatoes into. These were really difficult to peel because I'm an idiot and I scrubbed them. Don't do that if you're making mashed potatoes. You don't have to wash them. I knew that, but I felt like I should, and now I regret it. But anyway, these are cut up and ready to go. So I'm gonna boil them for 15 minutes while we work on our gravy. So I'll see you at the start. All right, so we finished cooking our sausage or our bangers. We've got our potatoes boiling back there, as you can see. I've got a 15-minute timer on for that. So let's get cracking on this gravy. I'm gonna turn the heat back on. All right, and we gotta add our onion and some salt and pepper. Now, I will be honest, those sausages smell so good. I don't even think that they need gravy, but I wanted to make this recipe in full, so we will cheat a little bit. The recipe tells you to add the sausages into the gravy and finish them off, like kind of heat them back up once the gravy's ready. I think I'm gonna serve the gravy on the side because I have a feeling Billy and I are gonna love the sausages and maybe not want a ton of gravy on them. I think I could do a little more pepper. We want these to be soft before we add our next ingredient. I feel like these little pieces might not be good. I'm gonna kick him out. And you look weird. Look at how all the water from the onion is like deglazing the pan. It's kind of crazy. I'm not really scraping this. I'm hardly even touching it. You also look a little weird. All right, I'm saying they're ready. So first tablespoon and the second. Ooh, that smells good. It's amazing the things you can cook when you follow someone else's directions. Wow, that smells really good. I also love sauteed onions, so shouldn't come as a surprise that this smells good to me. All right, guys, it's time. We're gonna add in our beer and our beef broth. In they go. Hello. That smells good. This feels like something you would eat at like an Irish pub. So we basically want to let this simmer and thicken up. Hopefully I got the timing right and our mashed potatoes will be done at about the right time. I'm worried the sausage might get a little bit cold, but I guess we'll just cross our fingers and hope for the best. So I'm gonna let this simmer like the recipe says and thicken up, and then I guess I will check back with you when it's time to make our mashed potatoes. They're still cooked. So we're back and I reduced the hell out of this gravy because as you saw, I poured an entire bottle of beer in here. That's what the recipe called for, and I really wanted to make sure that it didn't have that like actual beer taste. You know, when you cook alcohol, it's not supposed to taste exactly like it does out of the bottle, so I wanted it to get that nice flavor without being actual beer. But I don't really cook with alcohol a lot. I've never cooked with that much alcohol in a recipe. Usually I only use a splash, so I just wanted to make sure that we really get all of that alcohol out. I don't know for a fact if we did, but I do know we have a lot less gravy than we started with. Oh, that's the timer for the potatoes, so let's go mash them. As you can see, I didn't make a ton of potatoes. That's because Billy doesn't like mashed potatoes. He might have some just to, you know, complete the meal. I don't know, but I mean, I did make enough that he can have some if he wants, but I didn't want to make too many because generally he's not going to eat them. So this is going to be really simple. I'm kind of eyeballing everything. I guess you could call this about, I don't know, a tablespoon, a half a tablespoon of just regular butter. I have Irish butter, and I was going to break that out to be festive, but this is soft already and it's just easier. Actually, I'm going to do a little bit more. I think that was about a half a tablespoon, so let's call it a tablespoon even. Now, if you had some sort of like heavy cream or half and half, this is where you would add it. I don't, so I'm just gonna add a splash of whole milk, just a splash to make them a little creamy. Oh, I think I want to add some black pepper. Just a little bit. And then my mom's secret trick is to put a little bit of chicken broth seasoning. And we're gonna just hope it doesn't come flying out. That's probably plenty. All right, let's get mashing. Now my mom makes really good mashed potatoes, and she would always use a hand mixer to get them really fluffy and perfect. But I really don't feel like getting that out tonight, especially since these are not mashed potatoes that I'm making for anybody else. These are probably mostly gonna be eaten by me, and I don't need them to be perfect. Also, I know that like some people like their mashed potatoes on the lumpy side, and I even have heard that some people make them with the skins, which freaks me out. But tell me how you like your mashed potatoes. I'm curious what your preferences are. I think we did it, guys. So I am going to plate this up. I'm so excited. And then we're gonna get Billy and try it.
Looks good. It smells good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it smelled good the whole time.
All right. Guys, I can't plate, but that's not the same as cooking. So let me explain. I know you don't like gravy a lot, but I wanted you to try it if it doesn't completely skeeve you. So I put it on a separate plate. He's away from the rest of the family. So you got 2 plain sausage patties, 1 with the gravy. I wanted you to get the onions too, and then the mashed potatoes, which we know you also don't like.
Well, I mean, I guess I could learn to like them.
Oh, that's so sweet. I didn't make it.
Where's the vegetable?
Well.
So is this meant to be eaten like this, like a patty? Like it looks like to me like it would be good in like a bun. The way it looks.
Oh,
well,
it's supposed to be in the gravy, you see?
Oh, okay.
Do you want to try the plain patty first, or do you want to try the one with gravy first?
I guess the plain patty?
Okay. Got a knife, but it's hard to do that while you're holding a camera. Cheers.
Good. It's like breakfast sausage.
I know.
I don't like Italian sausage. I guess that's what I don't like.
Now, I did overcook them a bit because I'm not the greatest. They're a little firmer than they needed to be. What do you want to try next?
This for the
mashed potatoes?
Palate cleanser.
Okay. They look a lot more yellow on the camera than they do in real life. They're a little on the bland side because I didn't go crazy with seasoning.
I don't love them. My thing is with mashed potatoes, like I need something else on them. Like I guess it needs salt for me and maybe butter. I don't know. When I was a kid,
there is butter in them.
Eating it by like mixing in ketchup, but I don't think I want to do that anymore.
Well, there's plenty of gravy if you want.
I'm weird with gravy.
I know, I'm kidding.
Well, I don't know. I don't like Thanksgiving gravy. I don't know if gravy is just a word that can mean anything, but...
There's different kinds of gravy.
That's probably why I don't like mashed potatoes, because there always seem to be like gravy on it.
See what drives me crazy, guys? There's a little bit of pink in there, as you can see, but these were well above 160 degrees. Some of them were at 180, so we know it's cooked. Okay, now this patty will be warmer because it was in the gravy for the last couple minutes while it was on the flame. Cheers. Oh, it's a little bitter.
It's bitter.
Why did that happen?
Very bitter. What's in there?
Beer.
That's the beer.
Well, I did what they said.
This is what the beer tastes like.
I thought it would taste better if it was cooked. It started out really good and then it got really bitter.
Use a beer that you like, and I didn't like this beer because it was very bitter. So this is the recipe that wanted a stout? Oh.
Why? I thought you said this was a stout or close
No, it's a brown ale.
What about
stouts? I think are still kind of bitter, but some of them are more chocolatey.
Yeah, I mean,
sweeter.
If I was gonna go all out and spend money, let me. If I was gonna go all out and spend money for this recipe and be like super festive, I would have bought Guinness just for the gravy. But like Guinness is expensive and I'm not gonna drink it, and I wanted to use what was already in the house. And I thought it would be good, but it's pretty bitter. So you guys saw the beer I used, don't use that if you make this. All right, so overall, I do like this recipe. I like the sausage. They smelled amazing while they were cooking. I will say, they don't taste quite as amazing as they smelled, which is a little disappointing, but they're still good. And honestly, like, I think they'd be so good with eggs. I wouldn't make the gravy again with that beer. I might not even make the gravy again at all because we're not a big gravy family here. I love mashed potatoes. That wasn't part of the recipe, but it's bangers and mash, guys. I don't really love corned beef and cabbage. Plus, I wanted something different for St. Patrick's Day, and I thought bangers and mash sounded real fun, and apparently Irish people eat it. I don't know if they really call them bangers. The internet is like a little bit mixed on that. But I hope you guys have a great St. Patrick's Day. Let me know if you try this recipe. Billy, do you have anything else that you want to add? I don't know if we said pass fail.
Pass.
So we pass. Thank you for watching. I hope you subscribe and share this video. I'll see you in the next one.